Hello, and welcome to the Music Survival Guide, the independent musician's guide on how to survive the music industry. My name's Phil, a mixing and mastering engineer. I hope you're doing wonderfully well out there in podcast land. This is the second podcast I have recorded in the year of 2025. The first podcast I recorded is going to come out later this month, so that's not confusing at all. But never mind. So I've been thinking about arrangement a lot recently, actually, because I mixed a song that was so well arranged. It kind of really sat up and made me think afresh about arrangement and how it works and how you should go about it. And I put out a reel about it, and I got a bit of engagement with people about it, and it just kind of started to trigger me, and I just started kind of thinking about it more deeply and kind of longer, and how does it work and how do you go about it and things like that. And I just thought, well, I can put down some of these ideas in a podcast. So here we are. Welcome to this particular episode. I guess the first thing I should talk about is what is arrangement. And the first thing to say about arrangement is it's not songwriting. That may sound obvious to some people, but it's maybe not obvious to others. Songwriting is where you really sit down and work it out. So could you sit there with an acoustic guitar and a vocal, say, or a piano and a vocal, and play the song? It wouldn't necessarily sound the same as you intend it to, but that is the bare bones of your song. That is the writing of your song. And I know, obviously, to rock bands and metal bands, it's not really like that, but that fundamentally is what it is. It's what are the chords, how does it go, what are the lyrics, that kind of thing. Arrangement is everything else. It's, if you want to, it's what choice of instruments do you do? What kind of sounds do you go for? It's a very fundamental level. I know a lot of bands have their sounds worked out, but if you want to shake it up, then that's kind of part of the arrangement side of things. It's also about choosing when you play and when you don't play. Because I actually think, in rock and metal certainly, that choosing when not to play is as powerful as choosing when you play. And then when you play is about choosing what you play well, using intelligently, I guess. So all that is arrangement. And it's also about just making sure that the kind of emotion of the song, I guess, is spelt out in the way that the song is constructed and the arrangement of it. And so in terms of how do you do things, is it a really, really angry song and you want to get the point across straight away? Then, if you're a metal band, start with really pounding drums and a really crushing riff. That is going to get you there very quickly. That kind of thing is a really good way to think about it. What are the emotions of the song and how can we bring them out? The whole idea of arrangement is really helping define the song's identity and the song's mood. So if you step back and think about this song, how do you want it to sound? Do you want it to sound happy and kind of upbeat and really cheerful, or do you want it to sound downbeat and a bit kind of slower and a bit kind of reflective, or do you want it to sound really angry and aggressive? Those are really going to affect how you approach your arranging, and that is going to really help you kind of clarify in your head how you're going to go about this. That could come back to, if you're trying to write a happy song, maybe that necessitates a change of guitar tone to what you normally do. If you want to do something extra aggressive, then obviously maybe choosing more aggression in your guitar tone might help. I mean, I'm talking about guitar tone a lot here, but this applies to all elements of the band. I think a really good place to think about arrangement, if you're kind of still not quite sure how to kind of get to grips with it, is what is the drummer playing in each section of the song? So you all know that a drummer could play a really basic beat over pretty much every song, and what that beat will be will change slightly depending on the BPM of the track and the timing of it and things like that, but fundamentally that could happen. They could also do blast beats over the whole thing of over any song, and that would also, maybe not always, but it would work. It would musically work. And in choosing what you play and when, and kind of where you sit in between those two things, that really is arrangement. When does the drummer hold back? When does the drummer push forward? Things like that. That's maybe a more helpful and approachable way to think about arrangement. I guess what you need to think about when you are approaching the arrangement of your song is, when you think about each section, so take like the verse, the chorus, the pre-chorus, the bridge, the intro, whatever it is, what is the most important feature of that particular bit? So in the verse, and 9 times out of 10 the chorus, it's going to be the vocal. The lead vocal is going to be the thing. But it may also be some kind of widdly kind of guitar riff as like a secondary part that is really important to the feel of the song that you really want to convey. And then you want to kind of work out from that, right, that's the most important thing. How do we construct everything around that? And this is really going to help you unlock and work out what you're doing. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to just kind of start the song on one level, go to the intro, everyone's playing, it's kind of maybe a nice kind of chilled out 70s kind of thing. And then you carry on and you carry on and you carry on and it ends. If everyone's fundamentally playing the same thing throughout the entire song, that's probably not going to work. Unless you have other elements that are coming in and out as well, then that might work. But that is a kind of good way to approach it. Are you varying things up? And this is not varying up for the sake of it. This is working out how you're going to kind of help the song breathe, I guess. That's maybe a good way to think about it as well. So a really helpful approach that I've seen written down online is you need to use the dynamics of what you're playing and the dynamics of the song to build and release tension. So what do I mean by that? I mean, if you're, say, coming up to a chorus and you've got that bit before the chorus, maybe slightly hold back what you're playing and keep it simpler. And then when you get into the chorus, then it can really kind of explode. You want the biggest release of the tension in every song, to be honest. You want that biggest release to be in the chorus, and to a certain extent if you've got a guitar solo as well, that's really going to be a big kind of release of tension. So how do you build it? I think a really good way to think about arrangement is you do not need everything playing all the time. You need to work out when you have stuff. You need to work out when you have stuff not playing in order to return it at points in the song to kind of underline it and to kind of help and to build and push forward. So you want basically your kind of most full arrangement generally in the chorus, and so you need to think in the verses, what can we take away? What can we simplify? You simplifying the parts you're playing. That's a very valid way to do it. Are you taking away the guitars? It's a really kind of cliche thing to do, to have a verse or even half a verse where you've got just the drum and bass and the vocal. That's a very valid way to build and release tension in a song and to help people kind of guide people through the music. I think the worst thing that you can do in the arrangement of a song is you can bore people. You want to keep it interesting, especially in the age of the internet with attention spans being what they are. You want to make sure that your song is really compelling, really engaging, and people cannot stop listening. And sure, you need great songwriting. You need those melodies and those kind of lines that are really memorable and interesting and cool. But you also want that arrangement that helps kind of guide people through the song, where you kind of guide them into the verse and you go, oh, look, there's a vocal there, listen to that. And then you go into the pre-chorus and you go, oh, look, here's a little guitar riff. It's really cool and it's quite simple but really nice. And you go into the chorus and you kind of go, wow, the whole song kind of explodes. This is the kind of thing I think about when I'm mixing, to be honest with you as well. And if you can build and release tension in that way, you're really going to have a very, very good time with your music. I think you need to experiment with sparse moments. That can be quite a scary thing, I guess, to think about when you are when you're in a rock band, for example. It's going to be a scary thing to think about. This kind of sparse moments in a big song. That's maybe not what you want, but it's going to help. If you listen to some of your favorite artists and you really sit down and you think about, say, with the drums, what are they playing and when they're playing it? With the guitars, what are they playing? When are they playing it? Chances are they're not going to be playing the same thing through the entire song. Parts will come, parts will go. They'll add parts, they'll take away parts and things like that. And when I'm talking about adding extra instruments, say instruments not necessarily in the band, I don't mean to make this complicated. It does not have to be complicated. If you're a classic rock band where it's very kind of chill and it's a kind of like almost like a big jam, that is what most of your songs are like, that's fair enough. And there's obviously arrangement in the way that you're approaching each part and how you're playing and how sparsely or busily you're playing each part. But in terms of adding instruments, it doesn't have to be complicated. Does a shaker really help in the chorus? Are you going to add some claps or something like that, which can really help build the rhythm of the song? It does not have to be complicated. It just has to be, I guess, interesting and driving people forward as well. One of the biggest watchwords that you can have when you're thinking about arrangement is contrast. one of the best things that you can do is to make sure that your different sections of your song really kind of strike out to you as different. So if you've got a really crushingly heavy bit of a song, for example, and then it really strips back to practically nothing and then explodes again to, you've got, say, everyone going high distortion, whatever it is on the amps, and then you go to just a tiny little guitar line that's kind of quite clean with a little vocal line, and then it comes back again, that will sound so much heavier, and that contrast will be very evident to people, even if they can't explain what they like about it so much. That will really, really, really help. I think the best thing that you can do is experiment. You've got to find your own way with these things. If everyone's going to do their own thing, and that's absolutely fine, that's great, and that's the point of music. Find your own sound, experiment with it, get the band involved. Don't just kind of keep it to yourself. Make sure everyone in the band has a say. If they have an idea, make sure they get involved. Don't be afraid. Yeah, here's the thing. Don't be afraid to play your own instrument less or play simpler parts if it is serving the song. Most bassists know this. Most drummers will sometimes know this. Guitarists, not always. Less said about that, the better. But make sure that you are serving the song with your instrument. And experiment, as I say, find your own way with these things. It's really, really fun. I think arranging can be one of the most exciting and the most fulfilling parts of recording and kind of writing and arranging, I guess, your own music. It can be the most fun bit to my mind. So go forth and do it and make the most of your music. Make the most of what you've written. Keep it interesting. Keep it fun as well, I guess. So that's it. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Music Survival Guide. If you liked it, then please rate and review the podcast wherever you listen. It all helps the algorithm, of course. Please also share it with any friends and bandmates if you thought it was useful or interesting. Hopefully it was interesting. Finally, if you're thinking about recording or mixing and you want to talk about it, feel free to reach out to me via the links in the podcast description below. I'm pointing downwards even though you can't see me for some reason. And I will see you next time. Thank you.